Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we're going to be discussing Tesla in China. Tesla is pushing back on some of the brake failure reports that we've talked quite a bit about. We'll talk about the most recent development there. Then we'll kind of continue the tour around the world. We've got some news on Giga Berlin, some news in Canada and the US as well. Then we'll close it out with an update on batteries. First up, we'll take a quick look at the stock. Tesla today giving up the gains that it had seen earlier this week, finishing down 2.3% on the day to $653.38, a few dollars below the closing price last Friday. The S&P and Dow were up, but the Nasdaq did finish down 0.2%. Okay, let's start off with that news out of China. Just as some backstory, of course, over the last couple of months we've been talking about reports of brake failures in China. Tesla China has obviously pushed back on that, claiming that there were no brake failures, these were just user errors. The attention around that peaked during the Shanghai Auto Show a couple months back, with a woman protesting, claiming brake failures, but other people have also made similar claims. Since then, we have seen Tesla take action, so they've hired more people in communications. They've asked for and actually received some apologies from media and influencers that either reported on the stories inaccurately or, in the case of one influencer, actually just made up a story for more attention. Shocker. But those actions do seem to be helping, as best I can tell, externally. Well, today we've got the latest chapter in that saga. Kelvin Yang on Twitter is reporting that Tesla China is suing one of the owners that made claims of brake failures. That owner shared details of the situation in a Weibo post, which in translation reads, quote, "Hello everyone, I am the owner of Wenzhou Tesla out of control. I received Tesla's indictment the day before yesterday. Now I will release the previous EDR test report of Wenzhou Automotive Engineering Society. I hope you kind people can help me analyze it. Thank you." End quote. EDR test results there, that just means Event Data Recorder test results. So basically just a third-party analysis of what happened during this supposed brake failure situation. Lots of replies on this thread. One of the first ones reads, quote, "Don't you understand? This result means that number 1, brake is okay. Number 2, you stepped on the accelerator." End quote. Another reply here reads, quote, "This time I really support Tesla to sue the owner. This report has made it very clear. I suspect you can't understand it. The report says that you have never stepped on the brakes at all, and there is no problem with the brake system. When you crashed, you stepped on the accelerator." End quote. It's a little bit challenging to tell due to translation, but I'm not seeing much, if anything, come to the owner's defense in this case. Remember, these are third-party test results. It seems like the owner thought that this would help their case against Tesla, but it seems to have done pretty much the exact opposite. As for why exactly Tesla is suing, or what they're seeking out of that, it's not clear to me. But Kelvin Yang here saying that he doesn't think Tesla's seeking any sort of huge compensation, probably more of public statements and wrongdoing from the owner, as obviously this is more of a public relations thing than a money thing, and I would tend to agree with that assessment. I think it's difficult to have enough context to decide whether that would be a good or bad move from Tesla, but from what I can see, it does seem like the narrative is changing, and certainly Tesla seems to be a lot more proactive about that narrative, and I think those two things are good. Next, we'll move over to Giga Berlin. We've got an important ruling today on a complaint filed by an environmental group against Tesla. They were contesting temporary approval of some elements of Tesla's Giga Berlin. Here they list testing of already installed plants, aggregates at the foundry, paint shop, body construction operating units, and tanks for flushing and testing purposes before the entire project is approved. So the environmental group was asking for that approval to be revoked. However, that request was rejected, and the decision, they say, is unappealable. So good news for Tesla on that front. Who knows what other challenges might pop up, but at least they don't have that particular one lingering. Next here, we've got an interesting update from Drive Tesla Canada. They are reporting that Tesla has updated the Canadian Model 3 website to have a new higher weight listed for the Standard Range Plus Model 3. So it's now listed at 1,745 kilograms, which was 133 kilograms heavier than previously listed. Now, I'm not sure exactly when that change was made. Wayback Machine's not super helpful here because the last time it was grabbed there was November 20th of last year. Either way, that currently listed weight for the SR Plus in Canada of 1,745 kilograms, that converts over to 3,847 pounds, which ends up being 265 pounds heavier than the US listed Standard Range Plus. Interestingly, in their China Model 3 owner's manual, Tesla does share the different weights for 2170 Model 3 or the lithium iron phosphate Model 3, and as you can see, those weights pretty much align with what was previously listed in Canada and what is listed now. So it certainly looks like Tesla is changing over to lithium iron phosphate for the Canada Standard Range Plus Model 3. My guess would be that those would come from Fremont still, but let me know if you feel differently. And maybe this is just a step towards Tesla converting over all of Fremont Standard Range Plus Model 3 production to lithium iron phosphate as well. Either way, we'll definitely keep an eye out for any more news or any sort of confirmation on this idea. Next, we've got a couple of quick things in the US market. So first up, we've got a report from Experian covered here by kbb.com. This news is actually a few weeks ago, but just saw it recirculating today, so figured might as well cover it since I know people are going to be seeing articles about it. Anyway, it's about vehicle registrations in the US from January to April this year. They report that total registrations were up 36% year over year. Obviously, that time frame last year heavily impacted by the pandemic, but in the first 4 months this year, electric vehicle registrations up 95%. No surprise, Tesla leading the pack, taking about 71% of the electric vehicle market share. And remember, that's with really low deliveries of Model S and X, only about 3,000 total there due to the refresh. But funny enough, still coming in the top 10 electric vehicle registrations at 9th and 10th on the list. Of course, the Model Y and Model 3, 1 and 2. Another little fun fact they gave here is that California represents 38% of new electric vehicle registrations over that period, Florida 7.2%, and Texas 5.9%. While we are on the topic of US sales, we might as well take a look at the wait times in the design studio for various Tesla vehicles. I'm continuing to see these articles about Tesla being sold out for Q3. Some vehicles are sold out for Q3, not all of them. The one getting the most attention for that is the long-range Model Y. That has recently been updated to an October delivery estimate in the US, but the performance still listed at 7 to 11 weeks, which is essentially September. If we move over to the Model 3, the performance is the same there at 7 to 11 weeks, but the Standard Range Plus is also listed at 7 to 13 weeks, so still possible September delivery there, and the long range about 10 to 16 weeks. So a few of those might sneak into Q3 still, but on the tail end of that timeline, that will also be Q4. Then for the Model S, Tesla is saying September to October for the long range, some Plaid configurations still for August. So there is still some pretty decent availability for Q3, but obviously Tesla, pretty strong demand here in the US. Since we're on the subject, might as well take a look at China as well. And China is still showing 1 to 3 week estimates for the Model 3 and the Model Y long range, which isn't necessarily surprising with the introduction of the standard range, but this is the first month of the quarter. Generally, that is when you see wait times the longest for domestic deliveries due to heavier exporting. So compared to the US at least, demand is definitely looking softer from those wait times in China. Maybe because of that, it does actually make sense to ship over some lithium iron phosphate standard range plus Model 3s from China to Canada. That would free up that Fremont production just for the US alone. Relevant to US demand, we do have an update on the status of the electric vehicle tax credit. Last night you may have heard that Senate Democratic leaders have agreed on a high-level framework for a $3.5 trillion budget, which remember they'll likely attempt to pass through reconciliation. We don't have the full details of this proposal yet, but from what we do have, they are saying that it does include vehicle tax incentives. I had seen mention of maybe $174 billion for EV incentives, but I'm not able to confirm that. And I think they may still be working on breaking down that top line $3.5 trillion number. And as this continues through the process, obviously the structure of any EV tax credit could still change. So I expect we'll be hearing more about that and getting more specifics on that in the coming days. Lastly, we've just got a quick update from LG. We continue to see a lot of investment in battery manufacturing production. LG today announcing plans to invest about $5 billion for EV battery material production and their intent to grow into the world's largest battery material producer. One example of that is their anode production facility in South Korea. They intend to increase the production there from the 2020 baseline by 6.5 times through the end of 2025. So investments across the board, no signs of slowing down. But that will wrap it up for today. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday, July 15th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.